Hi, my name is Anthony Forestier. I'm the University Controller here at Fresno State, and what you're about to see today is a video about budgeting. It's very easy to spend money, but it's very hard to save money, so enjoy. Thanks for coming. Welcome to my presentation for College Money Smarts. I'm Anthony Forestier. I'm the University Controller here at Fresno State, and this is part of our Financial Success Program. I want to thank you for coming to be part of the video. We're going to have this videotaped, edited, uploaded to our Money Management Center website, and then distributed to every student on campus, alumni, faculty. Let them all have a chance to view this. So I appreciate you coming and participating tonight. Originally, we were going to talk about budgeting, but there's more to budgeting than just budgets. I mean, there's more to financial management than there's just budgets. So what we're going to do here is just give you a few ideas what we're going to talk about. Again, fundamentals of financial management. We're going to get into budgeting for college students. That's a big area as part of this presentation. I will give you show you a spreadsheet where you can do your budget on a monthly basis, and obviously it's recommended that you do it on a monthly basis so you can track it. It's harder to do on an annual basis, but you can identify your expenses on a monthly basis. That's why we do it that way. Protecting your credit, and finally, understanding and limiting student loans. You want to be careful when you do take out a student loan. You want to look at all the factors and what it's going to cost you. So, financial literacy basics. Knowing about your money, where it is, how much you'll need to have in order to buy a product, buy a house, buy a car, invest in a business, start a business. There's a lot of reasons to know how much money you need to do that. How to grow and protect your money. With today's environment, you can't really grow your money in a bank account. The savings is so minimal, inflation eats at that. So you got to look at how to grow your money and protect it. Understanding financial concepts and products, banking, savings, investing, credit and loans. Those are some of the areas. How many of you in here, let me ask this question, I should ask it first. How many of you in here actually have a budget that you do every month? A few? Okay. You're probably going to want to do it. I mean, it seems kind of laborious. You're saying, you know what, I'm good with my money, I have money, I can spend it, and I never run out. But there are times you might, so you want to pay close attention. You probably want to do a monthly budget. I know what my monthly budget is. I've been doing this for years, and I track my expenditures all the time. And I know what I can spend. I've got a savings account. I've never overdrafted my bank account. I've never exceeded my credit limits on my credit cards. I've always paid them off on a monthly basis, never accrued any interest. So I use the bank's credit to extend it for me, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. And then just making good decisions about your money. 3 basic rules. Always be responsible. Always know where your money is and where it is going. Okay. The reason you got to control what you're spending, you don't always have an opportunity to control what you're getting. If you're working for somebody else, you're getting a salary. You can't go the next month and say, hey boss, I just bought myself a car. Can you give me $20,000 more to pay for my car? You can't control your income. What you can control is your spending. So you need to be careful and be diligent and spend your money and know where it's going, okay? Live below your means. What that means is don't spend every dollar. Don't try to keep up with your neighbor. When you finally mature and you have a house and your neighbor has a brand new, Corvette or a brand new Ferrari, don't try to keep up. He may be a doctor, he may be a biochemist, he may be an engineer, he may be making that kind of money, and that's petty cash to him. To most of us, it's not. It's a big expenditure. So be careful with your money and live below your means. If you can afford a $25,000 car, maybe buy a $20,000 car. A car's $20,000 nowadays, maybe a little more than that. I haven't bought a car in a while, so I don't know. And then pay yourself first. Make yourself a creditor to yourself, meaning when you write your bills, if you're paying, well, can't say that anymore. Nobody writes a checkbook anymore, right? Instead of using your debit card and paying all your bills and sending, wire transferring your money here or paying it online, send it to your own bank account first. $100 a month, $10 a month, a week. Do it on a weekly basis, whatever you have. We'll talk about that also. Again, knowing where you are and where you want to go. One thing you can do is sit down and write down a short-term goal and a long-term goal, financially, obviously. My first short-term goal is, I want to start paying down my student loans. I'm getting close to graduation. I'm getting me a decent job. I want to start paying down my student loans. Make that a short-term goal. Or I want to buy, a brand new television, and it's going to cost you so much money. Start planning those goals and what it's going to take to get there. Long-range goals, house, expensive car, luxury items, start a family. Starting a family costs money with children. I always say there's never a right time to have children. So when you decide you're going to get married and have children, there really is no right time. Just do it. I mean, there's always a wrong time. There's always a wrong time, but there's never really a right time. How's that? So just think about that. And then sit down and list 2 challenges you face in meeting those goals. Let's say you want to pay off your student loans instead of in 10 years, like most everybody does, pay them off in 5. Okay, what's going to cause you to have to meet that goal? You're going to have to either pay twice as much or you have to make so much money. And then you sit down and you say, okay, what's going to cause me not to be able to meet that goal? Am I going to decide to spend it on something else instead? Or the job I thought I was going to get and this pay level isn't paid that much, or the raise I was expecting was going to hit this amount and it didn't. Those kinds of things that you're going to want to balance it with, like I said, your school, your work, your family, and figure out those goals and how they're going to interrupt maybe your plans. Because life happens, right? Things happen in your life. Sometimes you have control over, sometimes you don't. I've been employed, I've been unemployed. I prefer to be employed, you know. But things happen beyond your control. As long as you're working for somebody else, they control your destiny per se. Okay, some strategies dealing with spending and what happens when some triggers that cause you to spend. Some people, they get stressed and they decide to go shopping. And that's the wrong thing to do, okay? You need to understand what causes you to do those kinds of things. Talk openly with your family and friends, your parents, your spouse, your children, if they're of age. You probably don't have any children age enough to understand, but I talk to my kids all the time, and actually they teach me some things that I didn't already know. Like I said, practice not shopping as a stress release, okay? Because that's easy to do. It's just like, it's a habit. It's like eating. As you can see, I'm a pretty big guy. I eat when I have stress. I eat when I'm happy. I eat when I'm sad. I eat for any reason, so, okay? And that causes you to spend money. So be careful when you do that, all right? See what triggers you to spend money, okay? Review your spending habits. And the only way to review your spending habits is if you set up a budget, you track those expenditures, and then you can review, what am I spending my money on? I started with my student loan, and it put $1,000 in my pocket. What did I do with that money? What did I spend it on? The only way to figure that out is to track it. Like I said, I sit down every month and I go through my checkbook, and I put down in a category where my money is being spent. And at the end of the year, I looked at that and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I spent that much money on restaurants or that much money on entertainment. So track it, and I'll show you a budget here how you can do that. And then here's something to think about. We were just talking about earlier. Wait 24 hours before you buy anything over $50, okay? That may be helpful. Sometimes I can do that, sometimes I can't. If I'm filling up my truck for gas, it's $75 for the price of gas. I can't wait till tomorrow to fill it up. I got to fill it up today. That's $75. But to me, that's more of a spend versus buying something you really don't need. That's a necessity. I have to have gas to get to work, drive my truck, all that good stuff. So, okay, maybe I want to go out and buy a new iPhone. I got my iPhone 4, now it's an iPhone 5. Really? Do you need to maybe buy that phone? Think about it. Wait another day before you spend that extra money. Personally, I have a MyPhone. Okay? All it does is phone and text. That's it. I keep telling everybody the reason I haven't upgraded is I'm waiting to be the last person on earth to have a MyPhone, and then I'm going to ask Apple or Samsung or somebody to pay me $1 million to use their phone, so then I can retire. See, I don't know if that'll happen, but we'll see. And then do not charge large purchases. Save up instead. Okay? Because it's easy to, once you get, I don't know how many of you have credit cards. Raise their hands. How many have credit cards? Okay? And there's probably a pretty decent limit on that card, right? Okay. At one time, I had 20 credit cards. Back in the early 80s, when they were handing them out, sending them in the mail, I just signed up for them. I said, hey, let's see how much I could get. 20 credit cards, about $250,000 in credit that I could use. I could have bought a house on a credit card. Well, all 20 cards. I didn't do it. I know I had them. I let them all expire and I put them away. I never used them. But I had that availability. It was just handing them out left and right. So be careful when you have a credit card, how you use it. If you know you have the money in the bank, what I always do is, it used to be you could charge on your credit card the day after the statement went out. You wouldn't get a statement for 30 days because the period would close, and then you would have 30 days to pay. So I used the bank's credit for 60 days. When interest rates were high, I could earn more money in the bank just by leaving my money there, charge it on the credit card, pay it off in 60 days. There's no earnings anymore in the bank, so you're not saving anything. But there's still an opportunity there. You can buy it as long as you have the money to pay it, or you know you got money coming in that's a guaranteed income, you can pay it off later. That's the only time you want to use a credit card. You just want to say, you know what, I'm going to buy it now and I'll worry about how I'm going to pay it later. That's the wrong thing to do. Because something happens in life and you can't afford that, now you're and I'll show you a slide on here, what it's going to cost you with just a small purchase by paying the minimum payment. And then visualize your goals. Obviously, sit down with your goals, you understand what they are. You're going to visualize how you're going to get there. You know, you're going to accept this job versus that job, this pay versus that pay. I'm not going to spend, I am. So those kinds of things. And then control what you can control. Again, life happens. You can't control a lot of things, but there's some things you can control. Spending's a big one. Importance of budgeting. Basically, it helps you make the most of your money, is what they're saying is you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to spend $30 this month on certain items, and that's it. And it's almost like having a separate envelope to pay for whatever it is. Go to the movies, entertainment. I'm going to spend $30. Well, nowadays it's only 3 movies, right? $10 a piece or so. Going to the movies, right? Maybe less, maybe more. Okay. Well, and then if you take a date, get your date to pay. If they're not in this room, get the date to pay. That's spend their money, not yours. Anyway, most effective way to reach your financial goals is through budgeting, because you plan your spending. Just like you plan your day at school because you've got certain classes set up. If they told you just to come to class without giving you a schedule, come to class whenever you can, how many of you guys would stay home? I know I would. I wouldn't go to class. But you have a schedule, right? You go to class, this is the time I have to be there, and that's a schedule. You do the same thing with your money. You set up a schedule on how you want to spend it. Okay? Just think of it that way. All right. It's easy to create a budget, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Okay? I'm going to show you a spreadsheet, like I said, probably after the next slide. It's very simple. You've got fixed expenses, and that's in here also. You got discretionary, and I'll tell you about those. You can use an online budget, or you can create your own. And if you start watching, like I said, you put your money in buckets. Okay, this bucket's for my entertainment. This is for my restaurants. This is for my dating. This is for my, you can't put a bucket for your car because if you have a car, it's gone. You're spending that every month no matter what. You can't control that. You can control buying the car, but you can't control paying for it once you bought it. So put it in little buckets, and it's almost like, okay, I'm going to spend it. When that bucket's empty, now you shouldn't be spending any more out of that bucket unless you saved in a different bucket. Okay, that's what you can do when you budget. You know what you're spending on. Okay, I set my budget and I set $100 for this and $25 for that. Well, I spent $50 here, but I only spent $75 there. I can take the $25 here and put it in my budget for my other expenditure. It kind of balances itself out. Okay, here's some of the types of expenses. Fixed expenses. They're items you can't change in the short term. They're necessary for day-to-day living. Amounts don't change from month to month. And what kind of expenses can you give me examples of that are like that? Telephone bill. Cell phone bill, if it's a fixed account, because some people have pay for minutes or some people pay for text. But if you have unlimited talk, unlimited text, unlimited internet, you got a fixed amount, right? That's going to go in that short term, month to month. If you have a car, you're going to have usually finance at 6 years, a car payment. Every month you pay that same payment, doesn't change. Insurance on the car probably doesn't change, 50, 60, 70 bucks a month, or if you drive like my son's drive, it's $150 a month, okay? You're going to have more expenditures, okay? But those are fixed costs you can't change. They're month to month. Even though the insurance, you're going to have insurance for life on that car or every car you have, that it says month to month and it's the short term. That's really not short term. It's kind of a longer term. Any other examples? You got car, you got rent. That's right. You're living wherever you're living, you're going to pay your rent. It's usually a fixed cost. I don't know what the rental costs are around here to rent, but if you're in an apartment, you're paying $700 a month, or if you're renting it with somebody else, a couple $100. That won't change unless you take the biggest room, or one of your roommates moves out and you're stuck on the lease. You got to be careful on those kinds of things too. Okay, don't be the only one on the lease. Even if you're on the lease and all your roommates move out, you're still stuck. So be careful of that. How you set that up. There's other expenses that are month to month. If you're paying utilities, some of you, if you're living in an apartment, it may be covered under the rent. It's called part of the utilities is in there. I live in a house. I pay utilities. It fluctuates a little bit depending on whether I use more heat, more power in the summer for the air conditioning. Those are kind of month-to-month things that you pay that are fixed expenses you can budget. Some are flexible expenses. They occur regularly, are necessary for day-to-day living. That's kind of like the PG&E. I gave that as a fixed expense. Even though you have it every month, it's flexible because it goes up and down a little bit. Your travel, like your automobile gas expense. The more you travel, the more you pay. So if you have a car that's a gas guzzler, you're going to pay more. The more you travel, again, those kinds of things, it's kind of flexible, but you have that expense. Because if you run out of gas, the car's parked, you're still paying for it. You want to make sure you budget for that. Amounts vary from month to month again. Any other examples you guys can think of that are flexible? Food, it's kind of flexible. You need it to live, sure. Food and drink, you need it to live. And the more you eat, the more you spend, unless, like I said, you get a date and have them pay for it. That's another way to do it. Food, you're right. Now, discretionary income. There's where you really have control on how you spend your money. You choose to have those expenses. You control the amount, and examples are entertainment, restaurant expenses. And, you go to a restaurant and pay for the food there versus, maybe buying something that's, you can microwave at home or do something like that. Okay, so any entertainment expenses, and that includes food and beverage. For those of you that are 21, adult beverages, be careful. Those are the kinds of things you have control over. So you gotta. That's the one you can control and say, okay, this bucket is my entertainment, and it's $50 this month, and I'm not going to spend any more. And you try to control that budget. Okay. Hi. Thank you for watching the previous video. If you want to learn more about credit history and how it affects the rest of your life, take a few minutes and click on the next video. It'll be well worth it.